and welcome to our first video lesson. Just as it's the first video lesson you're watching for Honors Algebra 1, it's the first video lesson I am making. So please bear with me. These are going to be one-take videos, which means if I sneeze, I sneeze. If I get a tongue twister and I get tongue-tied, it's just going to happen. I'm going to move on the same way it would inside of a classroom. If I make mistakes, we might have to go back and look at them and fix them because it is math and we need good erasers. And just as it would happen inside the classroom, it may happen on one of the videos, and we just need to keep moving forward. So please bear with me on these first couple. Now, since it is the first video lesson, I would like to remind you that you can pause, stop, rewind, and replay the video at any time. So that allows you the option of working at your own pace. Whereas the first video, and it's the first time you're doing math since last year and in 8th grade, and you want to be able to really focus and dust off the cobwebs that set in over the summer and take your time with it, please do. If you remember a lot of the terminology and you remember a lot of the examples, then you can move faster. Also, during the parts where maybe we're writing a definition down, you can pause it and give yourself time to write down the definition. If you need more time, then maybe I'll allow. Also, where you can pause, stop, rewind, and replay at any time, please pick a pace that is comfortable for you. So just because your buddy already watched it and told you got done in 10 minutes doesn't mean you can get done in 10 minutes. Please take your time, find the best pace for you, whether it's really watching and maybe need to rewatch, or maybe it's watching it once through and being able to understand it. But please comprehend the notes, okay? Please make sure you're following along and understanding. And lastly, where it is the first one, remember, there is a note check tomorrow. That way we can kind of make sure we're taking good notes. I'll go ahead and tell you, anything written in the marker, will be written with one of these. You need to write it down. Also, with the examples, I will tell you what to write down to kind of go ahead and give you a feel for it. So this video might take a little bit longer as I do a little bit more explaining throughout the process. So let's go ahead and get started. Get your notes out. This is our very first lesson in our very first chapter. So we have 1-1, variables and expressions. And it's very important to go ahead and write down the title, because later on throughout the year I might say go back to your chapter 1, lesson 1 notes and look for this definition. So if you already have it titled 1-1, variables and expressions, it'll be very fast to find it. Now, for the date, I'm always going to write the word date on every single video we do. However, I'm not going to write the actual date, because right now for me, I'm in July. So if I write down July, it will be wrong because you'll be watching this in August. I'm hoping that you'll be able to write down the date is 8/13. I hope we get to it that Thursday if school starts. So please be aware that I won't always write the date, but I'll always ask you to write it, okay? And the reason why I don't write it is for, like I said, in case dates get off, in case we have an assembly maybe, or even in the winter time when we start to have snow days. That way the date you watch the lesson won't throw you off if it's wrong. Now where it is lesson 1, variables and expressions, we're going to write a little I can statement below it. And write this in your notes too, because this is what you will be able to do at the end of this lesson. So, I can write algebraic expressions. See, seems like I'm going to have to move over just a little bit. Algebraic expressions. And that's what I mean by one take. So if I have to do anything like that, please just bear with me. So for variables and expressions, I can write algebraic expressions is what we'll be able to do. So to start off this lesson, we have some vocabulary words. So our vocabulary, our very first word is variables. And variables are symbols or letters used to represent unknown numbers and or values. I'm going to pause, give you time to write that down, and then we'll look at some examples of variables. Some examples of variables, maybe in grade school, instead of using a letter like A through Z, or I think the most common one we use is X, they might use a box, so just a symbol to represent something unknown. Or they'll use a letter, like I said, X, or Y, or anything A through Z. That can be a variable, as long as it's there to represent an unknown number. Our next vocabulary word is algebraic expression. So this is in the I can statement. So first we need to know what an algebraic expression is. And it says algebraic expression consists of one or more variables along with one or more arithmetic operations. Even though the definition doesn't say so, it also includes numbers. So it's numbers, variables, and operations. We use the number symbol. So algebraic expressions consist of one or more variables along with one or more arithmetic operations. Sometimes the word operation throws people off because they may not know what it means. Operations just means, what are you doing in the expression? Are you going to add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Okay, so operations just means add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Just tells us what we're doing. Now after we have our operations, I'm going to show a little bit of examples of what an expression is. So, expression examples. We know that it consists of numbers and variables. So I can say 4, I can pick an operation, add. So 4 plus x, that's an expression because I have a number, a variable, and an operation. Or I can have 15 divided by 5, 2 numbers and an operation. And also remember it says or more, so I could have multiple ones. I could have 3x plus 6. Now everyone here in this example can point out real fast that the operation is 6. There's a plus 6 here. But also there's another one. Right here for 3x, if you remember, if there's a number and a letter side by side like this, it means they're being multiplied. Okay, so that brings us into our next definition of factors. And factors are quantities or numbers being multiplied. So factors are quantities or numbers being multiplied. An example of factors would be if I have 4 times 5. So that's one way to show the multiplication with the times symbol we usually see in grade school with the X. Or what we use more commonly in here will be the dot. If I say 7 times 2. So the dot means to multiply. Or, if I steal from the example up here, 3 and x being side by side means they're being multiplied. 3 times x. So whenever you have a number and a variable side by side, they're being multiplied. And remember, you can see multiplication in different ways. The very last definition for this page is the product. And product is the result or answer of multiplying. An example of the product would be if I took the expression 4 times 5. Well, 4 and 5 would then be my factors, because they are what is being multiplied. The quantities being multiplied are 4 and 5. 20 would be the product, because 4 times 5 is 20, so 20 is then our product. Now, for this next section, we're going to look at some words that talk about the operations we see up here. So, we're going to look at add, subtract, multiply, and divide again. We're going to make it kind of like a table. So, we're going to have a spot for add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Just as we have here, words for addition and words for subtraction. So, you have 2 out of the 4 spots we're going to have. So, words for addition. Words that mean addition most commonly are add or plus. Also the words more than, increase, and if I say 5 and 3 is 8, so and. And the very last one, right here in a different color, is sum. Because sum is the product of addition. So sum is the result of adding. So if I have, back to this example, 5 and 3 is 8. 8 would be the sum. Now to move on to words that mean subtraction. Basically, we're going to look over here at this list and just steal from it. So we have subtract, which is the opposite of add. For plus, the opposite is minus. More than, for addition, is less than for subtraction. Decrease. And just as we had sum for the result of addition problems, we have difference. Is the result of subtraction. Now, the next two, we have multiplication and division left. So words that mean multiplication are to multiply, or times, and product, which is a definition we just went over, and we know it's the result of multiplying. So product is the result of multiplying. And lastly, for division, we have divide. We have our word like a ratio, or over, in which if we have a ratio that is 10 to 5, we have 10 over 5. And our very last one for it is quotient, because quotient is the product, or is the result of division. Quotient is a result of division. Now we're getting ready to move on to some examples. I ask that you follow along with me and write what I write in marker. That way you can follow it and see it a little bit easier than just copying straight what's off the board. So for examples, we take example, and we're going to title this one Words to Expression, because the directions up here tell us to write an algebraic expression for each verbal expression. So we're going to take the words in example 1 that say 8 more than a number in and we're going to take the words and write it as an expression. So we're going to come through here, we're going to find what we need to know. We know 8 is a number, and then we're given more than, there's one of those mistakes I talked about, more than, so 8 more than a number, so we can even box him in if we want to show that he's a little bit different. More than is on our list for our words, and it means addition. And then it says a number in. So we don't know the number, but we do know it's the variable in. So I'm going to then take it and write it a little bit neater. 8 plus n is my answer. I'm going to box it in. So if you please will follow this with all the problems we do in here, show your work, and then write a little bit cleaner. It'll make it go a lot faster for us, and also it'll be easier to find your answers. Alright, so we'll do another example. Example number 2. Hopefully I'll copy this one better. It says the sum of J and 13. So we know that the sum is the result of addition. So now we're going to add, and we have J and, which also 13. So J and, for addition, 13. And then we box it in. So multiply 7 and m. So 7 times m. And then it says m to the 5th power. And that takes us right back to notes we just took about our 4 to the nth power. But that means that the 5th is 5. And because he's our power, he's our exponent. So 7 and m, the product of 7 and m, 7 times m, and m is to the 5th power. Now this is an okay way to write it, but we need to simplify it in that if I have a number and a variable being multiplied, I need to write them side by side. So 7m to the 5th power, all together. And then our last example over here, number 3, says the difference of 4 and x squared. So the difference of 4 and x squared. So we go back to our definitions and we look, the difference means to subtract when we're given the numbers 4 and x squared. So the square takes us back to our notes on power. So I know it's 4, my first number. Difference means to subtract. Then x squared means x to the second power. And then we box it in. That's our answer. Now, the examples we've gone over in our notes and all the vocabulary we'll review tomorrow when we first come in and look over them. We'll do a couple more examples, make sure we have it, and then we'll look into some practice and some real-world application with it. I hope you did well and you found the online video lessons to be helpful, and we'll talk more about it tomorrow. Thank you, and you have a good night.